Welcome back, everyone, to the Fight Against Boredom Starborne's Players Podcast. We're your hosts. I'm Fecca.
I'm Bryce, bro.
And we have a special guest host and interviewer, Alex. Say hey.
Hello, how are you guys today?
We're doing well. And Server 24 just concluded, and it was an epic journey with many people involved. We've seen big ticket names appear and duke it out once again, as well as some new names both in terms of players as well as alliances, and boy did they surprise. In the end, it was an interesting match for hopefully everybody involved, with lots of up and downs. And today, our friend here, Alex, wants to just pick the brains of some people that were involved with leading and just check how everything went down. With us today, we have Ben2M from Easy. Say hi, Ben.
Hello, everyone.
We have with us, as you know, Feka, me, as well as Gravity's own Nihilus. Say hi, Nihilus.
Hi, Nihilus.
And we have with us as well Jack H, who started out as unaffiliated, but later on joined Sorka. Say hi, Jack.
Hey, what's going on?
And with that, I'll just hand it over to our friend Alex.
Hello guys, I'm super excited to be here. I'm so glad that all of you have decided to come together and just kind of share what happened on Server 24. It seemed to be a really interesting server and is currently tying into a bunch of current politics on other servers. So that's what got me interested. Was I play Tahoe Scorpio Historical, I lead an alliance, and a lot of what happened on 2024 links back to Tahoe Scorpio Historical, so that's what got me interested. I've done several interviews with tons of people, including Doll, Clan Pred, Controller, Branks. I've done quite a few different interviews, and we're going to be going all over those today. I have a few rules, however, that I would like to propose that we all follow. First of all, no Tau Scorpio related politics. We all agree that hey, we don't want to have that drag over. One at a time, talking during interviews. We will go to banter after, when we can shit talk each other. Speaking of that, that and insults should be controlled, but it is allowed. In-game threats only. Keep them in-game, please. And no new forms of slander for anybody. Nothing more than what has already happened. And then me and Branks are the moderators. If we ask you to stop, then please stop. Talking points we'll be going over are interviews, the first 10 days, funny community content, major political events, different forms of banter after, and then our fishing points and then improvements for going forward. Additional talking points may include how coalition between FAB, Ego, Easy formed, how big battles went, and the current state of the game on the Dyson servers before Descendants. And with that note, I think the first person I want to interview is... I want to get started with Ben and Easy. So, Ben, tell me about Easy and your first 10 days of the server.
Hello, everyone. I would like to give a short story about how we formed. We actually formed on the previous server. I won't go into the detail of the politics, but we formed on the previous Flu server, like the last server on Alpha. We had a couple of guys spawning away from big coalitions as far as we could. We ended up joining up and forming a team with other players, and we stayed together and grew our team. Now this is the fourth round we're playing. We got a couple of very good players from alliances. Sometimes we beat, sometimes people just from recruitment. And I think we have a very relaxed family that doesn't really do drama, and we just try to fight really hard in the round. That's what Easy is for. And the first 10 days. Do you want me to talk about how we formed shortly, or do you want to start about the round?
Just go about the round. We can get into how you guys formed a little bit later.
Cool. Yeah, we decided to together decided in our region where to land, and we as Easy would be up front near the Omega zone, basically offering to be the punching bag at the beginning, while the rest could grow for territory and do the other strategies, go for Dyson, etc. We were focused on the Omega from the beginning, and in the first 10 days we all went close to the Omega to try and build forts there and establish our position, because we knew we would be fighting at some point. So we all went there, and we had a strategy where each of our coalition would go. So we were up front, so to say.
Did you face any opposition to that first deployment to Omega?
No. I did expect to see more skirmishes in the starting zone, but I think because all three of our big alliances joined in this one region, we had very little opposition in the first 10 days.
All right. So my next question was, what was one of the funniest or one of the most entertaining memes or jokes that you guys came up with during Server 24?
One which was particularly funny for our group, but it's not really. We don't really do memes during the rounds to other alliances. It's
That's
kind of
fair.
we don't want to shit
You
talk
don't
too
wanna
much here to
antagonize
say. We
people.
want to talk with the ships. But I have one. Let me look quickly. One of our. I think we can also. I don't know if I can. How I can share this. Should I
Can you
just
just tell us
He's
what
been
it
in
was?
podcast text chat and then maybe explain it as well for the people listening.
podcast text chat? Putting it in. This was basically made by grinders who grinders, me, Zana, and Sofa King kind of run easy together with the four of us. We're like a coalition. We talk about all the things we do and all the things we plan. And Zana is like the hammer. He's always up. He's always destroying people and trying to fight as hard as I can. I was TCing at that last offensive, and Grinders felt like he couldn't really help, so it kind of became a meme in our alliance. Every time Grinders does
That's
something
great.
stupid or whatever, we throw this meme at him. But he made it. He
That
made
is
it
great.
himself. That's the
Yeah.
funny part about it.
Yeah, he's kind of just playing his own little, Any other notes like how you finished the server? How do you think you finished the server, and overall, what was your short thoughts about the server? Was it fun? Could it use more things or whatever? Like, tell me.
I really loved the server, especially because it was a tournament server, which I'm the diplomat of the group, so I have to talk to everyone. And a tournament server is different in the sense that all alliances know what they want. So the talking to other groups is very different. You can really talk about the deep strategy of the battles, stuff like that, instead that you have to focus all your time on talking to all the people who are new around you. So it kind of focuses the game more, which I really like. In the end, we managed to get our goal, which I'm very happy about. We managed to win the Omega sector, and kudos to Zorka, to ZPP, and GLZ, because we were under constant assault, and it was a really great fight where everyone took all the tricks out of the bag to try and bounce stations, to get claim at the right spots, and it was a great fight. We really enjoyed it, and a special thank to Leviathan, who I don't think are here, but they ended up asking how they could help and how they could go for a victory condition, and we ended up with them coming with us to the Omega, and they've basically held our flank for weeks in a row, so we could focus on keeping our top station.
Yeah.
So that was great cooperation.
So for those asking what Omega is, I think he meant Omega.
Omega.
Sorry,
it's a joke. Everyone's joking in chat. Don't.
Okay. I just was like, I don't want people getting confused. Okay, so
no one's confused. Everyone's good. It's just a joke.
Yeah. Any other thing, Ben, before we move on to someone else?
Well, I think we set out to do our goals as a group, and I'm very happy that our coalition got what we went for, and we had a really great fight with Sokka for it. And I think I don't know if we're going to talk about coalitions later, but we did try to form a not too big coalition together at the beginning, but at some point we were fighting, possibly fighting Eclipse and Sorka and all the other people. Yeah. So at that point we started recruiting people around us as well, and it became this one giant war, which I loved.
Yeah, definitely. I think the next one I want to interview was Controller. Thank you, Ben. That was really great. Controller, if you have, if you can, muted. Could you please unmute? Oh, yeah, Controller. He can't.
Roles granted and unmuted.
Now I can.
Hey.
There you go.
There you go.
Hi, Controller.
Hello.
So, Controller, tell us about your first 10 days for SM and how you thought of it.
I wasn't doing a whole lot in game, as I usually don't, but we just kind of figured we'd go in, We needed to get away from our coalition. We had that whole experience in S1, didn't work out well for us. So we kind of moved outwards into FAB with the thought that we'd
Yep.
take some space, we'd slow them down while any built up, and then eventually would come help us. Which
Yeah.
we can talk about how that didn't work out.
Yep.
But
We'll get into that.
beyond that, it was just kind of finding where we can and making a strategy for defending.
Yeah. All right. So my next question would be, I know it's pretty obvious that you and Murphy and Jatek Jatek and Murph got on the wrong foot. So how did you first interpret that, and what prompted your decisions for that event?
Well, if both of them had been at it for a while. Jatak obviously getting banned from the first NE server definitely didn't help. Then getting banned from a second one after I had been kicked out of NE's main server didn't
Yep.
sit well. But at that point, I was kind of thinking either we're going to just leave or we're going to stick it to FAB and then leave.
Yep.
But then I saw the screenshots from Jatak saying that Murphy would refuse to jump a FOB to help us. And at that point, I
Yeah.
just said, screw it. I didn't see Jatak doing anything wrong, really. He got banned from another server, kicked if you ask Murphy, and then
Yeah.
refused to help from Murphy.
Yeah. So are your thoughts on Murphy still like I mean, you obviously have had issues with the guy, but do you have any personal grudges with him, or is it like it's just all in-game beef?
Don't have anything personal against many people, if anyone. I think
Yeah.
that if something happens in game, it's in game.
I'm just wondering like if there's anything there. So next question was, what are your what finishing thoughts do you have on 24, and what could be improved in your opinion?
I think
Sorry
we
for stumbling.
definitely need to deal with the issues of big coalitions going in and kind of comeback mechanics. Because
Yep.
like when you lose a bunch of stuff early, there's no coming back from it at all.
So we'll get in that a little bit later because I'm going to touch on Talos Score for just a second here. Jackish actually went to.
For the theme song. Yeah, Bob. What do I do?
So Jackish actually went to Seoul and tax during game comedy early, and I think that was super cool. But did any of that happen on 24 that you saw? Like anyone trying to kill indies early, or was that on later?
No, I don't think we really had any issues with anyone early. Everyone was pretty. There were a couple of solo people
Yeah.
that we kind of came across, but most of them were pretty good. I remember Fox. I had a player attack them out of the blue because I didn't say not to.
Yeah.
But I talked to him and we worked something out and we ended up having a nap. So
Yeah. I just asked that question because I was curious if like it was similar on 24 compared to Descendants. Anyway, any closing notes, controller?
no, not really. Although Jam wants to talk, if you have anything for him to say.
Okay. If that person can please unmute them or get
Well, no one
unmuted
can
and-
unmute themselves. We have to get it through one of the
I was just saying
Franks,
unmute
maybe?
them. Check out.
I can.
Jam can talk.
Go for it, Jam. You got a few seconds. Go for it. Or just type it out like you're saying. We can obviously read. We can.
If he just wants to type, that's cool too.
Okay.
And if you guys could keep the chat clear, just so Jam can type out his little thing.
I mean, they can keep going. We can obviously scroll
Never
up.
mind. Okay. Type away.
All right. In the beginning, whenever any
Can I cut out there?
Yeah, it's roboting.
and I can speak to it with the dissidents and the leadership moving from any over. It was a rather nasty move.
Wait, can you restate that? Because you kind of roboted there for a second.
I was saying
Like-
that during like S24, it was the nasty mess that controller was talking about, but from an
Yeah.
NE perspective, sticking with it, it turned from a mess to basically an entirely other situation going forward.
Mm-hmm. So
I don't
in
know
your
what you want to ask for that, but
so you're saying that those politics from 24 really
are
kind
going
of
to continue. Yes.
they continued on for just descendant.
Yeah.
That's why I specifically made the rule, because descendants is still going. We all know that. So
Yeah.
thank you, Jam. Any closing notes, Jam, before we move on to someone else?
If y'all want to ask about any in that whole collapse, y'all can.
Oh, wait. You
We'll
mean
get to
like
it throughout the.
Yeah,
we'll get to it.
Get to that.
All right.
That'll help me out. All right, next I want to cover, I think, Jackish and Zorka. Like, can Jackish?
Sure. Yeah. I mean,
So,
I can talk a little bit about Zorka. I don't want to say too much, only
Okay.
because I joined in towards
Yeah.
the end. But I mean,
Oh.
I'm willing to answer whatever.
So Jason, I don't know what his position is in Zorka, but if he wants to cover more on Zorka in depth, if that's comfortable with him. I don't
Well, I
know
mean,
what
he'd be
position
able to speak more for the early part of the game. But as far as
Okay.
the end game, I can at least chip in a little bit more there because I helped
Yep.
with some of the planning. I mean,
All
a
right.
lot of the planning was still Zorka, but I
Yeah.
at least helped.
All right, so Jackish, I was curious on what was your initial. What did you do, and how did you think of the first 10 days of 24? Let's start with that.
Oh, wow. Okay, so first 10 days, my goal for server 24 coming off of server 16 burnout was just to have fun, like just to try my own stuff, try my own strategies,
Yeah.
really test the limits of certain ideas that I had already been kind of had in the back of my head. And so I spent a lot of time doing that. I also wanted to see if I could have a little fun and like start a what was it? What was I calling it? A mercenary brokerage. That's what it was. But due to a misunderstanding of the terms of service, the devs shut that down. They're like,
Yeah.
So
that was really unfortunate, and personally, I hope they see that, bring that back in some way, shape, or form with the gifting thing they're bringing up. soon.
Yeah, so I mean, to be
But-
clear, like I didn't violate any terms of service. There was a genuine good faith misunderstanding of the wording in the terms of service,
Yeah.
and so they understood that. They just said, "Hey, as long as you stop what you're doing, we're good." So
Yeah.
I didn't break any rules. Nobody call for my head or my account, please.
Yeah. So, Jackish, what else did you do on the first 10 days? And then I'll go over like some questions I asked you in DM.
Sure. So I think in the first 10 days, my focus was to try two things. One being just seeing how I could maximize the value of firesides as a solo player.
Yep.
And so I spent a lot of time just trying to plan that out and figuring out like, how do I optimize this to the fullest? And long story short, I'm glad that firesides as they exist in server 24 are not in dissidence because they're just too strong.
7% is way too much.
But aside from that, I also was focused on really trying to see how far I could push mission running and just how strong it would be relative to flares. I think flares are, obviously everyone agrees they're very powerful, but
yes,
the main issue I don't think is the power necessarily, but the activity required to attain that power, right?
Yes.
Whereas with mission running, I would make the argument that mission running is as strong or stronger than flaring in terms of the power you achieve, but nobody has a complaint about how you do it, right? Because it doesn't necessarily require you to be on just constantly or just always be on the lookout for randomly spawning flares, right?
Yes.
So
Missions
yeah, that was my
sorta
focus in the first 10 days.
Missions, it's sort of the same, but it's not as more demanding as flares, which in my opinion, flares and braiding need to be balanced, but we'll get more to that later. One of the things I asked you was the first conflict you saw between two alliances, and you told me that some of the NE coalition guys contesting Terry with FAB and friends. This was before newbie protection drop and with FAB breaking NE. So go into.
I mean, that's kind of what Controller was touching on a little bit. They tried to fight 0Gs and they kind of ran into a situation where they lost a lot of momentum early on.
Oh yeah.
To the extent that for certain players, their game, as far as Starborne is concerned, on a competitive server, was virtually ended in the first like week and a half. But I mean, I wasn't involved in any of that. I probably might not be the best person to talk about that. That's probably more like Feka's crowd or
I
Troll.
just wanted to get a witness perspective, not like going in depth.
Sure, Controllers Alliance got smashed.
Next perspective I asked about was I was confused between not even gravity, not even SM, etc. So I got that clarified, and then what I asked? Hang on. I think I asked where did you see gravity, ECL, and Zorka ZPP on that day? I got confused between Zorka and GL.
Oh, I don't really. Yeah, so I don't really recall too much about what exactly they were all doing. I do remember that I had it in my mind that if I made it to the end game, being a solo player, you can obviously get picked apart pretty easily. If I made it to the end game, I was just going to join whichever alliance was the underdog, and I expected fully that Zero G's and their coalition, at least some number of their alliances in that coalition, would be the dominant force. So I was early on planning on joining Eclipse, but I was telling them like, look, I'm waiting. I even built like my own alliance station with a tiny bit of help from Docnace. And I was pumping out like 256 carriers a day, just trying to set up for the end game of whoever I joined, and it just happened to be Zorka.
That carrier production wasn't too taxing on you, considering you had a decent setup, right?
I had a good setup, but it was still a lot of work to keep it going. I mean, if I hadn't been running the missions that I did, the missions I would say were giving me about 400k res worth of resources benefit between cost reduction and actual resources gained. It was an insane amount of resources. So between that and then I had a bunch of mining colonies early on, so it kind of helped with managing all that production.
What else? Okay, so we went into your mercenary thing. Let me see.
You wanted to talk about Zorka, right? Like
Zorka. So what was your position in Zorka with helping Zorka during the end, and how effective was it in your opinion?
Sure. So as far as joining Zorka, like I said, my initial goal was just to help whoever the underdog was. I had EZ reach out to me at one point before I joined anyone, offering me to join them, and I kind of saw them as the dominant force as far as the strategic victory was concerned at that time. So in my mind, I had two options. I had the likely free easy win, not free, but like, you know what I mean. And then there was the underdog, which, while you're not likely to win, you're at least going to have one hell of an interesting game. And that's more of what I was interested in. And I was also interested in at least like seeing if I could make things a little more difficult for who I thought were the favorites of the server all along, which was Zero G's coalition. So I joined Zorka. They were trying to come up with their endgame plans. I proposed a strategy that Versi and Loppy actually ran in server 16, which was a Dyson cheese strategy. The difference here being we tried to cheese multiple Dysons and steal one of them. And it almost worked. We were actually one TC connecting away from winning the Dyson win condition.
That is really close, man.
Holy crap. And that's where actually one of my suggestions for a change in the game would be. When I look back I was so frustrated in the moment, but when I look back with hindsight, the problem with a lot of Starborne leadership and a lot of just managing movements and actions and strategy is that there's so much room for human error, to the extent that when you do something very complicated or involving a lot of players, eventually something goes wrong. And I would really like it if the devs would implement some tools into the game to help minimize some of that, because I think because of the complexity and because of the constant herding of cats, if you will. Not to say that any Zorka players were not easy to reach out to. It's just when you're talking to all those players, it's a lot. So I think they need to implement some kind of system where you can actually send combat orders to another player along with notes, like in game. So you don't have to track them down in Discord. You don't have to, worry about a miscommunication. You can just say like, I want these fleets to hit at this time.
Yeah,
please send
schedule events. You can kind of do that already with the memos, but I don't think it prompts a player directly, does it? Like you can't mention players.
Well, you can do some stuff within. I think in Dissonance you can do some stuff with the memos, but you can't do it outside of your alliance either. That was also another thing. Is like when you had all these players that were coordinating together.
Yes. I mean, you need a coalition Discord, and you have all this like spy pasta and freaking coordination channels, and just it's complicated. So I think one of my last questions for you. Let me look at the notes again. I think one of my last questions was involving what was that big thing you wanted to change? If you could give us a little dive into that before we go super deep.
What do you mean?
Like, okay, I'll just ask this generally. What improvements besides what you just mentioned would be good to add to the game?
Oh, I mean, I think what I just mentioned, more tools for leaders, more tools for that's the main thing I want to see as far as competitive servers are concerned. Yes. As far as just pure enjoyment of the game, I think Dissonance already solves a lot of the things I had issues with.
Yeah. Like early.
One of those things actually. Going back to what you were saying, like you were asking about early game initiatives, I think one of the underlying benefits of having sector versus sector versus sector is that it draws very clear battle lines right from the start. And so,
that's great.
In other games in the past of Starborne, if you're really smart about what you're doing and you're trying to win, it's not always clear who you want to take out first. Sometimes it makes sense to try and push the political angle and unite a sector or an area.
Make it now.
And have a non-aggression pact. But the thing is, politics takes time, right? And all the smart political players, they're like, hey, I don't even want to decide anything until, we're just outside of ESA or we're a week or two in. And I think one of the benefits of Dissidence is it was crystal clear to me who my enemies, and I was able to plan accordingly from literally the 5th hour that I was in the game.
Yeah, that I can probably say the same thing, because on 26 we spawned Gemini and we were unsure if like Taurus was working with us or Draco or whatever, and it's like,
If I could comment, I actually dislike it for that reason. I thoroughly enjoy, like, I understand what the purpose of Dissonance is, to like really bring it together, and I think for a new player experience it is much better. However, the rigid, like basically hardcoreness of going in and literally your next door neighbor could be your enemy, and it's really just up to you to decide because it's really your narrative. There is a lot of fun in that, and that is taken away. So like it's definitely, you solve one solution and you take away another. So for future competitive servers and future tournament servers, I would love to see it go back to either current map, the previous map, or like the 8-9 map, and just be like free for all. But then for more normal servers, I really like Dissonance for that reason. For new player experience, I think Dissonance is much better.
I get where you're coming from there. I think the one area I'd push back on is that a frequent complaint, even of your own players within server 24, was that the mid game was boring as hell, and that's not the case in Dissidence. It's just not. Like, the benefit of having clear battle lines drawn is that you already know this person cannot be my ally, right? In the end, in the long run, they're not my ally. You can still play politics with other sectors and say, hey, Lunar, help me gang up on Sol, or hey, Sol, help me gang up on Lunar, or whatever. But like, as far as actual combat, like, you can just fight nonstop all server long.
Yeah, we didn't view the mid game as boring on S24 for sure, as Nihilus is saying there. I think at a higher level play, when you are the ones basically creating the sectors, right? Like, we're doing what Dissonance is doing on a very high level. Now that's what I'm saying. Newer players. Yeah.
I was only going from what other players within your alliance have told me. Maybe it wasn't boring for you guys, but I had a couple of other players tell me that it was boring as hell.
Right. And this is what I'm saying. It depends on where you are in the spectrum, right? If you're at the top of the political spectrum, you are moving around a lot of stuff because you're creating these zones that basically distance is already done for you. As far as very high level play, the stuff that I really, really do enjoy is like the actual forming of these mega alliances, right? The very high level social aspect of the game. And while that's still there in distance, it's obviously not to the same level of it, but you're getting a lot of other benefits by doing that. And I do really see how distance does do that.
So, Becca, I have a question for you. Would you say that it's like it was somewhat boring for certain roles, or was it not boring for all roles? Like everyone was doing something. So, or was there a certain role that was like boring?
I mean, it really depends because a lot of people would say, anyone that knows how I normally play Starborne, I really don't do a lot in the game of Starborne, right? I try to maximize streams. I try not to have it. I try to have. So I try to be the last player that picks up ships, right? And because there's a lot of guys that want to pick up ships, and there's a lot of guys that want to do that stuff. I genuinely have a lot of fun being in Discord, being on voice, planning stuff, talking about things, seeing how other people are doing it. And a lot of times this way, you see Nihilist going and putting up all the stuff. I don't even have to do it. I just enjoy reading it, right? I enjoy seeing what's going on. I don't need to poke in and do something because I don't think Starborne, in my opinion, is a very exciting game. For me, it's a very interesting game. No, I just think it's interesting the whole time, right? It's interesting to see these plans play out, and it's interesting to see this happen, and I get a lot of enjoyment through that over the long course of the game. I don't need something to be happening, and I don't like for the game to tell me, oh yeah, this is your enemy. If I don't like a guy and he's he's near us or he's being rude or whatever, having to force to work with him obviously is one angle of distance, and I think it's better for overall. I think distance is better for Starborne and better for a more massive appeal. However, my personal, and I'm in the minority here, right, opinion of it is I do like the grittiness of politics and being able to, make your own lines. Now, that's not saying you can't do it. Like you were mentioning, Martians can go to Sol and hopefully try to get them over to Lunar. And once I realized that, I did like distance a little bit more because there still is politics, right?
Yes.
However, something is lost in that, but I don't think it's necessarily net negative.
And don't forget, there's still internal strife within sector, right? Like you're still going to have those issues that are political in nature that you have to solve, and sometimes solving them is actual warfare, conflict. So
without a doubt, But you're always set backwards if you do that because they are in your own sector,
right? Of course,
and you really are forcing because what we do a lot of times too is people talk about me and Brinks at our difference in how we handle things is if Muse put it, if you don't like someone, send them to Branks because Branks will say, this is what we're holding. Like this, we have all these ships and we will send them to you and blah, 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 and be like the angry parent or like the mean parent. And then you send them to me and I'm like, oh, well, no, it's okay. We'll be friends, yada, yada, yada. Right. So there's two sides to it. I don't see the usefulness of the Branks side of it is if you're in our sector, I don't want to send you to Branks because then you're going to hate us. And you're going to be like, oh, they're bullies, which if you're not in our sector is awesome. I don't care if you think we're bullies, right? You're our enemy. Where you're always our ally, it's tough, right?
Yeah. So
I mean, I don't know. Oh, go ahead.
My view on that is there's positives and negatives to both of it, right? I mean, it's like for Dissidents, you have the positive because, yes, your enemies are defined, right? You have two other sectors you're fighting. But the other thing I don't like is that usually what happens is one sector falls behind, the two sectors are above, usually try and create a nap with the two of them, and then bully the little sector. And that's just like, what I think should change is like allowing players from other sectors, if they're all in the blue zone, to join another sector. That I think they should be able to switch sides.
Real quick, let's try to get back to server 24 stuff.
Yeah.
We're completely into Dissidents.
Sorry, that was my
as
fault.
we knew.
We only got to Dissidents because you were asking about improvements.
I know.
Yeah.
It's my bad.
That's okay. Let's switch back. Next person I want. Any Jackson closing note? Sorry.
Oh, no. I just wanted to say thank you to Zorka for letting me play with them in the final week and a half or whatever it was, and it was a blast. And also thanks to Feka and his buddies and his coalition for the competition. It's all fun all around.
All right, I think the next person I want to cover is Gravity. So Branks, I think it's time.
What up?
So, Brinks, how was Gravity's first 10 days? And what did you guys have any internal issues throughout the server at all? Like, did you? You seem to have a pretty smooth server, other than burnout, is what you told me. So we'll get into that. But yeah,
I mean, I think on the surface might look smooth. We definitely have some minor issues. New map for all of us. Looking for new spots. So that was the very first day. We were just like frantically looking at the map. We had one guy, Rosabelle, or Muse2, or whatever he switched his name to right now. He's just like going over the map, looking at spots for people. We were saying like, oh, I'm looking for this or that, and he would find the spot. And we just tried to snowball as hard as we could. And very early on, we saw that we were snowballing into not even Space Marines, which kind of set the tone for us for the very start of the server. It's not a build-up phase. You got to build up while you're fighting. And that was interesting. It's very demanding, but it's very interesting because you're not fighting these big fights of just capital fleets against capital fleets and FABs and everything. You've got to kind of approach it a bit differently, but it also meant that a lot of people had to be there, have their eyes on everything, missile batteries, or a different story very early on in the beginning of the server. But at some tipping point, somebody just goes like, I don't care, let's just smash. And that just turned everything. I think something that made us really happy was when we sniped the Space Marine Alliance station within an hour of it being built. Which we were just pretty happy with ourselves when we achieved that. But for issues in game, when you've got 20 people that all try to bring their best, and there's a limited amount of resources and flares and everything available in a sector, somebody's going to be stepping on somebody's toes. So it took us some time talking to people, just to make them understand, like, hey, we know you're all trying your best. We all know that you can't play it perfectly and optimally. It's okay. We know you're trying your best, and we're happy with it. And I think we managed to do it pretty good.
Yeah. So, what was your view of any sort of because any were your enemies, right?
Yep.
Or were they working with you? I don't remember exactly.
But not even coalition was our enemy. The entire like little propaganda video that I made before the server started was kind of aimed at them because they were the other big power block that was known. And I just kind of wanted to prove that Gravity and the people that we decided to work with had what it take to overpower them, and that they were not as strong as they portrayed themselves to be. The snail meme got a bit out of hand, in my opinion.
Can I quick note for server 24? It was actually started. Biggles and I got together wanting to create a community tournament server because there wasn't a lot going on. So from the beginning, it was supposed to be, our coalition versus Indies coalition. Obviously, we invited everybody else and we wanted everybody else to join. But so from the beginning, they were absolutely our core enemies.
Okay.
So Space Marine is jumping at us aggressively while being kind of part of the Not Even coalition played kind of into my hands, because I like to not just play the game, but also play the people, both like the people I play with and the people I play against, because it's a multiplayer game, right? And I like to use the term tempo a lot, pressuring people and influencing the morale of our enemies. And I think when we played it really strong against Space Marines, and I'd like to commend Space Marines, they fought back hard. They didn't just get stomped, even though we kind of did stomp them, but it wasn't that easy. But once we managed that, I think some of the people and Not Even might have looked at what we have achieved and thought to themselves like, hey, this is not going to be as easy as we thought. At least that's what I like to think happened.
Yeah. So, how was I heard you guys pull off some last minute moves. I don't know if that was you guys or Lunar Eclipse, but I think it was Lunar Eclipse mostly. But who? Not who, excuse me. How were those last minute moves and how did they play out?
Do you mean last minute as in the very end of the server?
Yeah, like what
Eclipse
were those and how did they play out?
Yeah, Eclipse didn't exist at the end of the server.
No, I'm not talking about Eclipse. I meant like the end moves that you guys pulled off.
I mean, as Gravity, we were called upon to be the people that eat into the Dyson again, which is kind of a Gravity stick. The very first ever we formed was happened, and it happened again here, which is a bit poetic to me. But we were talking a lot to our coalition partners about strategies and hows and what might the enemy be doing and planning. How should we go about countering that? And in the end, there are so many things that could happen, but you can't be everywhere and block against everything. I think everybody that was involved did amazingly. It's very amazing how much they managed to do and how much they managed to spot and plan for.
I think he's asking about the shell snipe.
We did jump in together at the end. That was fun.
I think if you're referring to shell snipes, people thought about like people planning for their Dyson getting bombed, but timing a shell to build at the very last second of the server, so having shell level 1. And so some of our guys planned to bomb on the very last second of the server, so the shell completes and immediately gets destroyed. It's all timing. Basically, what are you going to do with the very last second of your Dyson? Like, it's a paper ball, right?
I can talk about that if you want. Yeah, I was there with Lopi. I remember that it was kind of interesting because from what I read from Jackish, mentioning it in S24, their initial plan was to finish with a level 1 shell, and then kind of switched into the Dyson cap, while we thought their initial plan was to steal the Liber Dyson and then a backup to do the shell. And it wasn't much we as Gravity could have done to prevent them from stealing the Liber Dyson, other than just to warn Ego that was what we thought was going to happen. But for the shell, it was more like randomly spying it, seeing that they had a full warehouse cap, asking and getting the Tian spy from Versi, I believe, who confirmed that it was empty, and me and Lopi just looking at it and thinking, okay, well, a level 1 shell is like 5,000 hit points, so let's just snipe it at the end. And if I remember, it was Lopi sent his huge Seok carrier raid 1 second before at 59:59. He sent a bombing carrier with HVAB because that's enough to just kill the Dyson shell at 16:00:00. And then there was another one at 59:59, and then I came in with my Gatos 2 seconds before that. And I saw that by morning Zorka was caught on, and they sent defenses to intercept, but they intercepted me. And I believe that was likely because they were finishing the shell. I think it was super well timed, like within the last second or something.
I was telling Versi that you guys made me stay up until 3 a.m. to try and click a Dyson shell. And so that's what ended up happening. So we had 2 players stay up until freaking an ungodly hour, and we clicked that shell so that it would build. So we didn't know if the final second of the server was 16:00:00 or if it was 15:59:59. And so we just said, okay, well, let's have it tick up at 15:59 and then so that's what we did, and we got it to the second. It was perfect for that plan, but the problem was you guys had already thought about it. I had originally, as far as like preventing you guys from getting your Dysons to go back up to 1, I had originally planned with them to not go for that and just hope you guys forgot. Ultimately, our end game strategy culminated with us trying to do multiple things all at once and hoping somebody screwed up. And that's, I mean, when you're in such a severe underdog position, that's what you have to do. You have to play to almost to your opponents making a mistake. In the end, we almost pulled it off, but it was good.
All right. So, any closing notes from? Was that? Sorry, I've been trying to keep track of everybody.
Branks and Nihilus.
Branks and Nihilus. Were there any closing notes or any improvements that could be made to the game after server?
Companion app.
Sorry.
Like, please let me I feel like, as people have been talking earlier about solar flares and all these kind of small things that you can do all day long to get ahead just slightly, that reward you to be here 24/7, compulsively, just do things. Kind of curb that a bit and give us, please, a companion app. It's 2020.
Yeah, the companion
that should just be a thing. Like, I don't get the debate. I think that would improve the playability of the game immensely. Not even just planning attacks, just like clicking your building queues, checking that everything is going, your ship queue, seeing if you're under attack or not. Like, yeah, knowing, do I need to now go to my PC or remote in, or am I fine?
Yeah, that's a real big thing that I think the devs should get on personally. So, I think that's it for Gravity. I wanted to talk to Ego Cole. How are you doing today?
Good evening. I'm doing mighty fine.
Yeah. So tell me about Ego on your first 10 days.
So, the first thing that we wanted to do was survey the map, because it was a new map and we needed to find out what kind of moon spots, labor spots, the general feel of the map. And once we spawned in, we started looking for firesides, clustering positions, labor, and just overall who spawned with us to Sajida. But we knew in the beginning that our place in Sajida would be secure because we had easy spawning with us, and we also had the main Ego crew with us, all the big hitters in our alliance. Then we also had OGA spawning with us, which were a ragtag group of guys we picked up from server 19 and server 9. But yeah, things happened, and actually the people in OGA, some quit playing, and then we moved them to OGD, and then we had Leviathan join our little crew. And this was all orchestrated by Purple. God bless his soul. Too bad he's not here, because he masterminded all the smaller alliances to join into our mini coalition in Sajida. Even though we agreed in the 0G coalition that we wouldn't take any smaller alliances, that we would bomb them out.
So, Cole, it sounds like you guys had relations with SMC, right? Is that correct?
SMC?
As in, like, Solar Mining Core or Sajida Mining Core, led by Client Fred.
Oh, that I'm not up to date with that. That name doesn't ring a bell.
He was out really early on, is the thing.
Oh, because of the whole thing that.
Yeah, he was slave trading, last I heard.
Yeah, that I didn't know if that was okay to mention. So, obviously, Nicholas Way, shout out Nick, I love you, dude. Made the video on Clan Fred calling him a slave trader. And that was the first time I've heard about that. And the only reason I sympathize with that is because of other events of me getting called slave trader, and I'm not going to get into that because. But I made a video on that. Go check out 26 Politics for that. But I thought that was really funny. Nihilus apparently told me that you guys were dying in comms, and Nihilus, if you can comment on that real quickly, you guys were dying in comms when that came out.
Oh, I remember us guys, as in we were voicing in our FAB Discord, and somebody said, "Oh, have you seen the video from Nicholas?" And everybody just started watching, and it was just this collective hype squad of observing what was likely the highest production level quality thing, meme propaganda piece we've all ever seen. Everybody was losing their shit. Yeah,
that was funny. When I first watched that, I literally died laughing. Has been found guilty by our council. So back to Cole. So did you guys have any conflict with any other alliances, and how did that work out if you did?
At the beginning, or just overall during the server?
Overall.
Overall, well, of course, coming from server 19, where we were fighting Zorka, we also fought Zorka in server 9. So we had a rivalry going on with them, and we had won server 9. But on server 19, we had to give it up because we wanted to put all our eggs into the basket, which is which was server 24, and Zorka managed to gain the upper hand on us on server 19. So coming into server 24, we knew that we were going to fight Zorka. That was our they were our like number one enemy. But during the server, there were a lot of smaller alliances in Sajida. Some of the most active I can't name all of them, there were so many, but we absorbed some of those players, bombed the rest of them out from the game. But in Libra, in the neighboring sector, which was the main battlefield of server 24, there were several alliances. Kraken, I think Space Marines had their, or Space... I mix up the names. I think they were Space Marines, not Space
Mercenaries, maybe?
Controller Mercenaries.
Controller can clarify.
Yeah, fake Space Marines.
Fake Space
Marines. They're saying Space Marines, Star Legion, and Kraken.
Yeah. So, yeah. And once we had established ourselves in Sajida, we had a foothold, we got the Dyson, we had our alliance station, then we built our FOB and started heading into Libra. And there was actually a great play made by Mordor when he switched alliances into KRK, and they managed to bomb our FOB out in the beginning.
Yeah. So, any other closing notes for Ego? Because I want to get into Mordor's interview that I did with him. Any other closing notes? Any improvements you'd like for the game?
No, I'll just echo that the companion app, I think, would be a great addition to this game.
Absolutely. And any thanks or something like that?
Well, thanks to our whole coalition, everyone in Ego, OGD, Leviathan, all you guys making the dream work. Thank you.
All right. I wanted to just cover what I talked about with Mortar, and I don't think he's in here, but I was gonna say that what was his name? The Zorka guy that was in here that I was saying Jackish could. He's right here somewhere. Anyway,
Jason.
There was a Zorka guy in here. I was like, Jason.
Jeff Bino.
Anyway, if he's not here, I'll just get over what Mortar said. So I asked him. I could find this, please. Thank you. So I asked him, how were Zorka's relations with other big figures on Server 24? What alliances did you first have issues with, and what was Zorka? Was Zorka having any internal issues at the start? So he talked about he teamed up with Eclipse and Magnet, and Magnet and Ambrosia were their leader. They knew each other. Magnet was good but unstable. We'll get into Magnet later, if we want to touch on it quickly. They had 3 alliances to face off against Indian Gravity, that being Golden Legion, they had Zorka 3. Zorka, GLZ, and ZPP, Zorka Port Pirates, and then Eclipse and Star Monkeys. Eclipse was supposed to defend Cygnus Draco against Gravity, and we take care of Easy and Ego, fighting Libra. Any then imploded, so Eclipse was the next target at Gravity. At the moment Any imploded, we were winning the fight at Libra, and I asked, how does Zorka react to Any imploding? They said it was hard. It was a hard time. It happened so fast that they were so. They saw that Any was not that strong, but we had faith to inject to lead a strong fourth there at least contain Gravity. So we switched sides, which was one ally for -1 ally for us and 1 for them. We understood it was a bad situation. Next, he says. We were winning the fight in Libra, so at this moment we were unsure that if Eclipse could just contain Gravity by surviving and defending, we can win this. Because Zorka and the help of Kraken was enough to kill both Easy and Ego. Ego was forced to merge with our blessed players to barely survive our attacks. We had great production of ships. I said solid overwhelming for Ego and crew, and even their coalition was accused us to take ships for smaller alliance to upgrade our armada, but that never happened. We just had an army of 13 March Prosperity League players, and a few hammers. So we could just refill fast and go back to fighting. Now that server's coming to a close, I asked, are you planning to do any last minute moves? They did last minute moves apparently. And then I asked about Magnet. He said Magnet's a good player and to push people to do their best, but a bad leader. He took a wrong decision, lost countless ships and falls for nothing, so Muni's starting to eclipse because everyone was questioning his decisions and Magnet don't like to be questioned. Next, he said he got crazy and deleted Discord, and I asked, do you have any screenshots of what happened in there? And he said, no, I don't. You need to ask people from Eclipse, which hopefully I can get a hold of those maybe to see what happened. I was told it wasn't important, but oh well. We understood that we had no shield from Gravity more after Eclipse collapsed. That was the moment the war changed. We Vorka versus all. So Gravity jumped at Libra, put some fortified stations there, and they regrouped all their allies and jumped us with 8 FABs. And to be honest, in my head, we were like 0 chances. But as leader, I did my best with Neb to motivate everyone, and we started organizing micromanagement and defense. Lots of Gatos, Marina fakes. I was like a spider web, focused FAB by FAB, starting by the weakest, and we killed 5 FABs at the start. They managed to destroy only 2 stations before we got their FABs to either F off or get destroyed. Have I been talking on for too long? Does anyone want to comment?
I think Nylas would probably have comments on exactly how that went down.
Yeah, Nylas, can you go into that?
It's pretty accurate, I think.
Sound a bit more excited, okay?
Yeah.
I'm not sure from Ego's perspective if it felt like they were losing the fight or anything of the sorts, but for us, the whole invasion of Libra was because we weren't super 100 and billion% sure Eclipse was actually quitting, because they had pulled a fast one on us before with the whole fake drama, and now that time kind of looked more real, and we still kind of stayed there, tried to do something. Zorka intervened and saved the Eclipse in Omega, and then we pulled out of that theater because we thought, okay, well, Eclipse has not been moving, so they're likely dead. And then it was a dire straight situation from what at least it sounded like that from what Ego and Easy were describing. So we decided to push together. It was not the best executed invasion. That's absolutely true, and it gave them the chance to knock down FOBs that were killable. Off the back of that invasion, the good things that happened for our side was their Dyson got cheekily bombed. I'm not sure if that influenced them in any way looking back at it, but I know they were leading the shell race, and after that point it was pretty much impossible for them to ever come back on top of the shells by the end of the game. But you know how Dysons are, so not sure how relevant that was, but go ahead, Jackie.
I was going to add into that. I think as far as Dyson shell levels right now as they currently exist, they don't really matter at all. They're too easy to bomb down to 0. So I don't think the cheeky bombing mattered so much as it was an issue of you guys taxing their capital counts. That was the real problem when I joined them, was that their capital counts were lacking just because they were forced into a position where they had to use them. Whereas I think with probably 0Gs the most, they relied a lot more on trading heavies or lights for capital counts.
Yeah, if I could respond to if you don't mind on the 8 for push, was kind of idea which we came together on a voice meeting to try and push in, and I think initially it looked very good. Then something happened on the server where basically combat shut down for a couple of days because some people got banned. I won't need to get into that because it's not really up to me. But that kind of took the momentum out of the push, where our 8 FOBs were just standing there and they knew we were coming, so they had a lot more time to prepare. And by the time we hit them, they were so dug in that we couldn't really go for our primary target, which we set out to do. There was Mortar's cluster. And it was so fortified by that point that we had to go around and try some different strategies just to damage to the secondary alliances. And I think in the end, we lost a lot there, but they lost a lot too. And Easy's goal this whole round was to trade our heavies for their caps, just to try to keep their cap count down. So we did a lot of ship trades both ways. And we also pushed here and there to try to win some time for the rest,
It also let us, that push let us as Gravity set up our whole Libra cluster.
Exactly.
And that was I think that helped because there was a point during our whole invasion where Zorka actually managed to fill their third FOB with dreads, enough dreads to one-shot stations, I believe, and frigs and caps, and they knocked down quite a few easy stations, and that was a clear point that we had to stop that. So we set up Gatos nests, we set up Sab nests, and that was enough to stop any possible aggression by Zorka, because we had a lot of Gatos firepower, like pushing 40 million, and we had largely untouched cap hammers. So we froze them in their advanced in place, which are probably they weren't necessarily planning to push further, because I think that was about coming close to the time where they had to tunnel, turtle up and just get ready for final day plays. But it also let us harass their caps. Like I tried my best to keep tallies of how many caps we killed with Gatos and Sabs. In Gatos alone, it was close to 40 fleets of carriers killed.
Holy shit!
That was it was awesome. Was awesome.
Definitely. Yeah, you guys almost. I think if you guys killed maybe 10 more fleets, you would have jeopardized our end game plan. Like you were really close to jeopardizing our ability to compete in the final days.
About that, because you guys still managed to pull enough caps to bomb both Dysons. We had one more.
That's only because I joined, right?
Right.
Keep that in mind.
Right. And we had one more plan to kill, which was Peaks, but sadly our Sab was last minute scramble. Everybody was kind of burned out anyway, so it was very hard to do super tight and powerful ops, but we were going for Peaks, much how we went for mortars to sap his labor and kill his caps with our Gatos. But Beardred actually saved him. He saw the Sabs and just went on to peak and saved all those beautiful domes and consequently all the carriers. So it was a lot of fun harassment from us. I know we could have likely also bombed mortar a little bit from that cluster, but it was such horrible burnout for us that it was like, let's just get ready for the final days, and that was it.
Yeah, at some point we had traded so many ships. Every battle we had against Zorka, we traded up, as in that we almost every battle, as in that we mostly lost heavies and they lost caps. We were like chipping away at them, but at some point, Zorka had such good ship production that they just simply outproduced us alone. And by the time we were done with trading, we had very little ships left, and that's where FAB stepped in, built the cluster, so they had at least some screen to be close to us, because they were all the way in the back in another sector. So now they had a staging point from where they could help us, and that kind of stopped Zorka in their tracks bombing us. So that was a great idea from them. That really helped the war, which allowed us to build up again and then go for the Omega. Omega.
Yeah, it's okay. You're good. Someone that is not here, but I wanted to go into was Dahl, and he was he sided with Jatek towards after the NE collapse, and I wanted to go into his story. So Dahl was in the Last Frontier with some friends from previous servers. He was allied with. First of all, I asked him what alliance he was in. What were your alliance's first internal drama, and what was the server showing any funds at fun by day 10 and why? So obviously it was fun by day 10, and it was up until Descendants dropped for me. At that point, I had done a lot of work, and I could possibly do on 24. So Descendants showed itself to be a new challenge. I became more active then on 24. Back to Last Frontier's story. We were allied with Gravity and asked to hot drop into Cygnus with our allies High Council to disrupt the Not Even Coalition, give Gravity an excuse to come into the area to help us out. However, THC dropped in the wrong sector, and I decided it would be best to try and keep be neutral or allied with every alliance in the area to ensure our survival. We made a direct alliance with any GBT and then any SM, and then we transformed a NAP into all of NE, which we then were also working with Zorka from the beginning of the server, as well as Kraken. I think KRK is Kraken, and facilitated alliance between any GBT, KRK, and GBT. And Zorka tried to either bolster their chances of survival or fight against Eclipse and NE. I then asked, was gravity good for you to be neutral? Was gravity good with you being neutral with most everyone, or was there some issues there? And then what was any made up of, and how did things boil over for Murphy and Detect in your eyes? He said, there was no issue with gravity on my end. We had done a lot of diplomacy that worked in our favor, and I hedged my bets on them winning the server before it started. Then there were times I would when it would have been better to play to mobilize the alliances against them, but Feka had promised to back me regardless if we were fighting them or not, and I felt it would be duplicitous to repay his kindness with aggression, so we loosely worked with them and then directly worked with them once to text what happened. Any's group is made up of any stealth led by Biggles, any SM led by Controller, and NBB led by Murphy, and NEGT led by Jack. NEGT and NEB were on the front lines working against Eclipse, and when Detect told Murphy to move his FAB to the front lines, Murphy got upset and said that he was tired of being told what to do by Detect. Detect laughed and posted a conversation on their Discord, and Murphy banned Detect. At the point, it wasn't more than an hour, and Detect left NE and started actively working with the GVT coalition. I was asked who I was going to support, and since Detect and I were good friends, I said I'd go with him and bring my guys as well. This changed the focus of what I was doing, and from pulling Detect's alliance over to my side to working with them to Jack to help him fight Dorka, NEB, and Eclipse. And then I asked Controller followed Detect, right? And we all know yes. Yes, Controller followed Detect. No one was on from the last Ventura left over that. Most of us had been friends for 3 or 4 years, and I was just asking, like, did anyone leave over that decision? Like, no. What was your? Go ahead.
Well, I mean, I would like to comment because I feel like he name dropped me quite a bit there, and I'm sure my own alliance didn't even know most of the time when I was talking to Dahl. So the very, very beginning, Dahl did reach out to me and basically gave some absolutely insanely absurd, like, if you want to be our allies, follow this list of rules, right? And basically we're like, we're not
that
like,
sounds like him.
yeah, it was really funny, and like it was very like RP with his whole John Wayne, rest in peace.
Yeah.
But basically I told him, like, how we're going into this, we didn't want any extra alliances at all. We wanted to go in with just Element Zero and Ego as the only people placing for victories. We obviously brought Khan in as well, and they ended up becoming this beast. But they had no intentions of getting any win conditions. So I basically told Dahl, we're not really going to ally with you, but literally, even if you're fighting us, I'll support the RP, and I'll be happy to even, like, you know what I mean? Don't hold anything. So that's kind of what he was talking about and referencing there. But yeah, we definitely were on good terms the whole time. And just because I like joking with him and texting to him. And I did for a second name our alliance station after what he said to name it. And everyone got upset. Cause like, now everyone's going to think we're actually allied with them. And I'm like, oh my God. Like,
what was that name, by the way?
It was something like the whatever saloon or something. I forget what it was, because it was only there for like a few minutes while we were kind of come up with our real name. But yeah, it was a fun time with Dahl being next to us.
Yeah.
For context.
And then I asked him, I think about Magnet, and he said I didn't think too much of it, but I thought strange that leadership was neglected to him. I thought he was just playing with them, but I found out about the leadership after the breakup happened. I was on the ECL Discord, but I saw the overflow into the server 24 politics and decided it wasn't for me to weigh on. Zerg and I had differences in the past, but I've never been in alliance with him, so I can't attest to his work ethic. No horse in the race, or defending him or Severus. So, why I asked so much about Magnet was because it seemed to be a pivotal point for multiple different coalitions to just split, or ECL to like I think it was a big part of the server's overall dynamic, and Becca can say yes or no to that, but I think the Magnet event sort of changed a lot of things.
Yeah, we have played with Magnet in the past. He was in Gravity. For those that aren't familiar with our complete back history, we knew he would definitely be dividing the enemy's teams. I think I don't know if it was any one person that specifically said, or everyone just kind of agreed, like, oh, if we get the opportunity, you have to jump near Magnet and you have to start messing with him, because if he does, what happened when they jumped on us when Magnet was in our alliance, I actually ended up staying up the entire night watching his stations to make sure the FAB didn't launch any attacks at it because he had freaked out so much and been like, "You guys don't care about me. Like, where's the alliance, like honor, yada yada yada?" Because we said we aren't gonna attack the FAB. We're just gonna defend his stations. Which, if you know, it's very hard to defend as many stations as he had right there. Luckily, we got through it, but we knew it was a very tense moment, and we knew if you put any pressure on Zerg, he's probably going to do the same thing. We also didn't know he was in leadership and had the ability to knock out a Discord. We just thought he might, leave or cause some kind of friction. And I think Nihilus or Branks could really add to that if you want to.
I'd like to weigh in a bit on the Magnet topic, if I may.
Yeah, go ahead. And Jack was the one responsible for Burn Magnet, apparently.
I mean, a lot of us pushed for it because we knew, like, a very similar situation happened on the tournament server like a year ago around Christmas time, where his cluster got dropped by an enemy FAB, which kind of freaked him out. So we kind of thought that that would probably happen again, which it did. I think Magnet is a good player, and he has a lot of good ideas. We've done a lot of theory crafting with him. We literally had an entire channel dedicated to his theory crafting and his walls of text.
Yeah.
I think eventually he will make a great leader. He just needs some more experience, right? Just to how to do conflict resolution and just not to get too upset over all kinds of stuff. He has a lot of good ideas. It's just the execution is a bit lacking. And I mean, all of us grew into who we are nowadays and continue to grow. I hope he gets there. And in the end, he was part of the small group that created Eclipse, and Eclipse seemed to have survived as a group, now calling themselves True, I think. The whole dilemma, and maybe grown closer because of it.
I think they split off, though. Those groups became unaffiliated at some point, I think.
Yeah, but it seems that some people that were in Eclipse stuck together now in a different name. Some went off to do different stuff, but I think that some of the people that just stuck around and still do things with each other after the whole Magnet fiasco, they've kind of grown closer to each other because they went through that hardship together. And I think they'll still take some lessons that they've learned from Magnet with them. Like, he's part of what created that group. Yeah. Even if he now isn't anymore. He's absolutely part of Starborne lore at this point, I think.
Oh yeah, definitely,
for sure. And let's not be remiss to mention that the mortality count for Discord servers, the first server 24, is actually 2, not 1.
Yeah, the NE one also blew up, correct?
Not Snuggums, excuse me, Biggles.
If I may,
blew up that one.
If I may, that actually didn't blow up. Murphy still went through, and the server's still around with people in it, unless he just did it recently.
Oh, it was said at least publicly that he deleted the Discord. I don't know if he actually did.
No. He went back and forth on that like 5 different times, announcing it each time. The last thing I heard was that he was keeping it around.
Yeah, I believe the server's still up.
Can I? Okay, I think Feka just PM me. He's like, "Hey, it was supposed to be an hour-long podcast. It's about to be hour 30. Sorry." But I really want to just do a few more touching points before we end off. I've heard a lot of really cool stories about this server. It must have been really fun. Can we all agree that it was a fun server? Universally, yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so. And regardless of the drama, this server has been written in Starborne's history and will really, really help understand what's the game like how can we really manipulate it to win or get all these strategies like that. That's what this game is for. It's a strategy game. And putting all these people together was like, yeah, so I also just wanted to add that I'm really happy. Congrats to the winners. I'm just gonna say that. I don't even know where I was at. Congrats to the winners. I'm super happy for everyone who played on the server. Glad you guys had super much fun. Any closing notes? Any banter? What do you guys want to do for the last 8 minutes? Do you want to call out someone?
I would like to talk about one subject which I've gotten a lot of questions about lately. So I wanted to do it in one time, so we don't have to do it with multiple people. And that's the situation with Divine, with Div in they spawned near us, and they were a relatively new alliance. And normally, Easy Alliance is known for helping all the new guys around us, not being a bully, so to say.
Yeah.
If we can help it. And in this case, we ended up talking to our coalition because we did end up attacking them. And we talked to our coalition, and at that point we were still like, okay, we have 3 big groups, so we don't want to grow bigger. Then Eclipse stood up, and Zorka stood up, and we had so much possible enemies that we decided, okay, we need to recruit people instead of kill them, because in the end this is going to be a very big war. That's why we actually stopped attacking Div, because at some point the coalition was, okay, at this point we kind of need allies, maybe you should stop attacking them.
Yeah.
And I didn't like attacking them in the first place because they were new players, but in the end they wanted to stay neutral, which is kind of interesting. I think they're the only bastion in this alliance, Slugout, that has been able to stay neutral just by being very honest to us about what Zorka told them, and they told Zorka what we told them. And they just said, look, we're going to not join this fight. We want to stay neutral. We don't want any goals. In the end, they did get a place on the strategic board, but they were like, we just want to stay neutral. And I really respect them for that, for the fact that it actually worked out. They have really nice leaders. And in the end, a shout out to them for achieving their goals, even though we, both our side and their side, would have loved to have them in the fight. But they just wanted to do their own thing, and they managed to do it through diplomacy. So I think that's a really great achievement. And it shows you this game has a lot of diplomatic and what Vika was talking about earlier, social aspects that make this game really stand out for me as well. I'm like Vika.
Yeah.
I don't play actively like the Hammer, but I love talking to people, forming groups, forming bonds, knowing who to trust, who not to trust. And in the end, that decides if you win a round or not. And I love that about this game.
I personally think this game is just a more relaxed and less intensive EVE Online. That's my opinion.
Relaxed?
Yep,
If
agreed.
In a good way. It's like a lot better, but it's like...
Some of my generals sacrifice so much sleep they might murder you after hearing that after the next part. But I think...
stuff.
Anyway, that's just my opinion.
Could I say something about Div? Yeah, we were actually planning from the beginning to drop with Div, but because of all the alliances that were supposed to be concentrated in Cygnus, they ended up going to Libra without us. So we were kind of working together from the beginning. I was leading them against you guys to start with, and then kind of helping them out with some of the more diplomatic stuff, especially once we joined up with FAB. They're definitely a great group that has some potential in the future.
Yeah. I think... I don't know if there's any other close... does anyone else want to chime in, like, before Feka turns this off?
No, I mean, I also have some closing stuff.
Yeah, go ahead.
Specifically just about actually getting together and just like a big shout out for not only our own kind of coalition here, which was obviously Element Zero, which I want to do a big shout out to them because, and I kind of do this in their Discord as well, but just an alliance that started in Flu that you saw really worked hard and really kind of got put in a very difficult situation in Flu going up against the coalition I was in at the time, and that's when we had Admiral doing the big sing block type stuff, doing that, kind of pivoting when they could. They got into Biggles Coalition at the time, and I really talked to Ben a lot during that time because I'm very much in the mindset of, you got to help the community, you got to push people forward, because you can obviously see, he has that light bulb that went off, and then seeing him in Beta 1 S1, which is another giant mega server, and they ended up, I think, working more or less alongside guys like Purple and stuff, but you guys didn't get to place, you weren't the premier team, right? You didn't get the first place finish. Yeah. And to see you guys actually finish out the server and hold the middle of the map and do all this was a very cool moment, and in my opinion, a very shout out worthy moment to show any other alliance leaders out there that, I mean, you guys played for full servers of grinding out, building a team, getting a roster, and really putting the pedal to the metal and winning like a competitive server. But this is sometimes how long it takes, and to put in that work, I think a lot of people don't realize about Starborne because the server ends in 2 months. Why aren't I winning my first server? To put in that time is the epitome of what I think Starborne is, and that's what I like to see in the game.
Yeah.
Thanks, Vika. That was very special to hear. Thanks.
Yeah.
Appreciate that. We loved working with you today as well. and you helping me even when we were enemies. You're one of the only people I've met so far who kept helping us, kept coming with ideas and making us stronger. So in part, this growth we've had as an alliance is also because of your guidance. So thanks what you do for the community.
I'd like to give a short shout out as well, if I may, to the community in general. I've seen that it's kind of become better, where at the end of the server 24, we were able to drop into the general voice chat, and everybody that was there from all sides of the server met in very respectable and friendly terms. We were able to talk without anybody talking negatively or really bad to each other, because in the end we play a game that we all hopefully enjoy, and it's only as good because of all the people involved, the people you play with and the people you play against. If the people you play against aren't any interesting to fight, then the game just isn't interesting. So I hope this can develop even further in that direction, where we can have the banter and it can get really heated at times, but we stay civil. Thank you guys.
Thank you guys for being super respectful and super one at a time and just getting your opportunities to get your stories out. That was all really good. I'm super happy to be here. Thank you so much, Feka, for letting me come on. I was super excited for this, and I'm super pleased with how it turned out. And I think on that note, Feka, I think it's time to just, you know,
Rico.
I think everyone sit here long enough. Thank you guys for coming.
Thank you for the format. The format was awesome. Thank you. I really liked it.
Thank you.
Congratulations to the winners of 24. Good luck to those who are playing on Descendants, and peace out.
Yep, there's the music. Thanks to the community. It was a community tournament, and we did it. We finished it. We're gone. Everybody get some sleep. Keep up that fight against boredom, everybody.